Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I believe today is Tuesday, or is today Wednesday? Today is Tuesday, July 17th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. Really nice trend today. Uh, Notice how we shot up here and we stayed away from the EMA for so long, then we came back, and then we were away from it again for a while before we came back. And when you start to get away from it a long time like this, it gets a little bit concerning to enter up here even off this trend line. So I only marked a couple of these after this point up through here, but we'll talk about it when we get to it. But the key was to catch some of these early, and you really didn't catch any runners on these early ones unless you gave it a little extra room. If you're just moving your stop to break even, you're not going to catch any runners on any of these. You had to play it on up here before you really catch any runners. So, but right in here, once you start to make all these little bars that just keep going higher with lots of dojis, that's your first clue that just keeps going higher and higher and making higher highs and higher lows. That's your first clue. This is a strong trend, and you're probably not going to get a lot of second entries. You're probably not going to get a lot of big corrections. I mean, this is the biggest correction we got, and it really didn't only pulled back to test this low. Even then, it couldn't get through the EMA. So you're just not going to get any real strong corrections. Even up here, the highs of the day, we found support around 2810 and couldn't correct any more than that. So once you recognize all these little bars with lots of dojis, this prices just keep working higher and you don't really get any steep corrections. Uh, it's a strong trend. You just got to enter with it. So needless to say, let's talk about the trades here. First one I saw was this higher low here. We had a little channel working down. We had a close outside and two measured legs down. And you could probably argue for that one right there before the regular open. But it also, you could treat that like a little failed break lower, but you're probably better off to wait on the higher low, which came here. And so I marked that one. This one you could argue for it to be green, but you're going to get burned on those sometimes. And then this is the one I really want to talk about because I got at least 3 or 4 emails, so that means a lot of people probably got fooled here. This one's easy to get fooled on, fooled me as well. So, you know, really ideally, notice what happens. You got to break two legs down. So you're looking for a possible correction, and you got this failed second entry short right here. And so you want to go long right here. Honestly, this is not a really good setup because if you draw your trend line down through here, of course, you only had this first couple of 3 bars here, so you didn't have a whole lot to work with, and you might have made it a little steeper. And if you did that, then you still could have gotten fooled right there because it would have looked like a bounce off that little short-term trend line. But one thing I want to point out is notice let me make this a little bigger. There's a few things you can look at here that tell you that this is not a perfect setup, even though you're looking for a reversal, and even though it's a failed second entry short. If you used your shorter, even if you used your shorter term trend line, if you just drew this off of here, let's say you move it down and that's your shorter term, you're still going long right off the highs of that little channel. It's just so tight. Let me draw it on both sides. So you don't have much room there. It could just go a tick or two and back up again. But in the end, I just think that this was, you needed a bigger correction. So if you drew this off these 3 here, you still got a bounce here, but it's the first entry. And I'd wait on a second entry at that point. But notice the 2 matching highs. Notice how strong that last little push up was, and you're going long into a 2-bar matching high, which is just really a real small double top. You're not, the better entries are when it forms like this bar back close to the, or this bar back close to the EMA. So that's the better setup really. But most of the times this trade will probably work regardless. So next time what'll happen is this will scare you out and you won't want to take it, and it'll take off and you'll kick yourself because, hey, I shouldn't have been on top of it and not scared and taking the trade, and you get scared out. But if you took the trade, you didn't necessarily do wrong. It could have been a little better setup based on the things I showed you, but anybody could get fooled there. You want to be a little aggressive on these because a lot of times it takes off and doesn't come back. It does that, but we just needed a little more correction here. Notice that you got this support area, and we had the little failed break lower basically, and so it came back and tested that before it took off. And that's what prices were really doing. They were coming back and testing this one more time. And you can see that, and it came back and tested it, and then they took off, and you got a second entry here. You really could have entered here. I'm gonna mark this one green. It's just the problem is it's like 2 ticks in there, so it's a relatively bullish bar, but it's not perfect. If it had been 1 tick lower, you could have called that a doji, and then you would have had 3 or 4 bars, so it's close to being a doji. So I'm not crazy about it. I think your better entry was waiting on the next pullback to see what happened, and that came right here. So I like that one. And you basically got a new low there, and you tried to go lower once, you tried to go lower twice. Your true failed second entry short was way up here, and there's really 2 measured legs up by that time. This signal bar wasn't very good, although no matter whether you use this as your signal bar or this, it all triggered at the same time. So it doesn't matter. You could point out any one of those, and when it broke higher, that's when it's a failed second entry short. And so that's where you'd probably want to go long. And notice it's off that trend line. It's still not closer to the EMA, but you're not going long right at the very high. So here you're going long right at the very high, and it's not off the trend line. Of course, you don't have a lot of information about the trend line there, but now you got more information, and you can see it's clearly working off that trend line. And so I like that one, especially the little double dip. You may not have entered on these two, but when it tried to go lower again and closed up here near its high, I like that one. It actually comes back again and gives you a similar type setup, but now you've been away from the EMA. Again, you could argue for any of these pullbacks to the trend line that are bullish bar to be green, but I'm not going to mark them. I did like this one to some degree because you got a new low here, and you got a first entry, and you got a failed second entry, and then you tried to go lower that one more time. So I like that one. You could probably even argue for that one to be green, but waiting on that next little one more attempt to go lower just gives you a little more information. It's probably going higher. So it takes on off again. Notice how neatly prices are fitting in this channel. All the closes are inside and touching on this side. All your turn downs are touching off here. And then we come back, and you actually get a second entry long right here. But look how flat that is and how small that channel gets down here. I mean, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 bars there easy. That's basically a little doji right there. So I'm scared of that one. But when you get that failed break lower right there in that big reversal type bar that actually pushed through the EMA and turns back up, I like that one because you're looking for it to make a new high. That's your first real convincing close outside. So you're looking for it to make a new high. And it could even be, it might even be the fact that it's 2-tiered. I didn't put it on here, but you can see there's clearly 2 tiers there. And you can see that came back into play over here. So that's another reason I like that one. And so this is probably a midline, and you most likely got a 2-tiered channel working up through there. And so I like that one based on that. It does make a new low there. First entry, second entry. There's your failed second entry short, and another nice little bullish bar. That one takes off. And you would have got a runner on either one of these. By this time, everybody knows, hey, the trend's strong here. Something's going on. The trend's really strong. And I need to adjust that just a little to find the midpoint. You can see that looks pretty close right there. There's another pullback here. It's very similar. So, but if this is not a two-tiered, we've had a close outside now and two legs up. So I'm a little bit leery of that one. Again, if you saw it with two tiers, then I'm okay with it. And again, it takes off. And then we come back here. And here I think you needed to wait on the second entry. It turns down here and goes out the upper side. But by that time, you've got some resistance across here. And that's, just be a little leery of going long into that. And you can see the support long here. So we're really gone back into another channel. And you actually get a second entry long here. And this would be the first break on the two-tiered channel. And you get a second entry long there with a nice bullish bar. Plus, you've had this low. You tested it once. You tested it twice. That's your third test. So really, this was your secondary test with a bullish bar. So as soon as it broke above that one, you could have gone long, but it ends up not breaking higher till here. And you got enough room to get out before it gets to here. And if it's going back to here, you definitely got room, but it doesn't. It ends up staying in here. And notice the little trend working out too. You get a close outside. It tries to make a new low, but this support, and this is a very strong uptrend, so you're leaning to the upside. And then I like this one basically because you've got these highs. You test it once, you test it twice. A little break side, a little small bar, very low risk. If it comes back to here, it's a nice little move with very low risk. I think there's 3 ticks there. And then, of course, this was into the 2 o'clock hour, but now you've tested this strong support here, and you got another little failed break lower. I like going long there. And this looks very similar here. It's a little bigger pattern, but it's similar to this. And so it's like a little repeat pattern. You finally get that little push lower. And this one would have caught a nice little runner as well. And you never know when that's going to take off, but that's the thing I like about these little break lowers or these drops that are lower is that they generally catch a very important turning point. You're going sideways here and you drop below in a strong trend day, and notice the trend takes off again. And same thing here. It finally drops a little lower and you take off with a fairly nice trend again. It wasn't like this from here to here, but still same type situation. That's what happened here. You got your break of a little trend coming down, you get a new low, and you kind of got a little trend working here, and you get that little failed break lower, although you wouldn't have caught a runner here long term when we take off from there. And that's what I like about those failed breaks if you catch it right. So sometimes they're worth risking, but this was another one. If you'd went long on the second entry here, you might have got burned. And you might have even looked at that like it's dropping a little lower than the main stuff here, but it's not lower than that one. It's a perfect double bottom. And so that bar is still part of all this, because originally you'd have had this up here, and then you would have moved it down as it tightened up. And so even though it does drop a little lower than these bars, it's dead even with that one. That's still part of that range across there. And the other thing about this one is that, it does touch the trend line on the 2 tiers if you're looking at it like a 2-tiered. So that's going to give you a little bit more information that maybe you're going to go out. But there's nothing really that confirms this. So you got to really look at this closely, but it does come back and confirm it here. So. And then we finally get the close move to a new high, and then we just kind of tailed off the rest of the day, trading down. And so that shows you that this was probably the accurate one with the close outside and a couple of moves up to a new high before it sold off. So not a lot of trades a day because it's just too risky. I mean, entering in here, but I'm going to tell you, when you get a strong trend that looks like this, and make sure you study this. We hadn't had one of these in a while, so we hadn't talked about one in a while, but back when we had a lot of volatility, we got a lot of these. But when you start to see, it doesn't look real strong because there's a lot of dojis and a lot of sideways, but notice how you just keep making higher highs and higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and lots of little small bars. and not very big, and the corrections are very mild. Even here, this big correction to come back all the way across here, very mild correction. Prices can't go back very far. Continue to make real small bars, and that's a strong trend. And look how straight up that EMA is. Our prices never closed below that EMA until, I mean, you look, this was about 8:30, somewhere around 8:35, 8:40, and we didn't close back. And I don't even know if I'd call that a close. I'd probably start here. So from 8:30 to 8:40 or so, all the way to 12:30, 12:40. So that's 4 hours that you're steadily going up with the EMA pointing straight up and no correction. It even comes back and closes below the EMA. When it's that strong, you're probably going to get a push or two below before it pushes up and then sells off. So that gives you a little more incentive to think about going long across here. But you just got to be careful about your timing. Just where was it? Back here. I mean, the right idea is to go long, but the timing's just a little different. And this same thing, I believe it was yesterday, something very similar to this happened. It gave that little trap. And you watch, now that we're noticing it, we'll say, okay, you'll skip this next time and wait on the trap, and you won't get any more traps, and it takes off without you. But that's trading. You're going to have, I mean, there's some reasons to say I don't want to take this one, but if you want to be aggressive and catch a lot of big runners and catch those big moves, you're going to take these. But some of them aren't going to work. That's just the way it goes. But don't let it bother you. I mean, that's the key to this thing is that, we're like a robot. We don't get emotional. We have, losses are part of this business, so you're going to have losses. So when you have one, don't sweat it. Just the next one's probably going to work. So just the odds are it's going to work more times than it's not. So just keep taking it and you're going to make it back. But here's the thing too. Once you got this second entry triggered, and somebody sent me their chart, they had a lot better entry here than me. And they had a nice bullish bar. So what if you got stopped out right there? You wouldn't have lost, but maybe 5 or 6 ticks. I'm not sure exactly how many is in that bar, but you probably would have lost 5 or 6 ticks tops. That is a 5-tick bar. So you might have lost 6, 7 ticks tops. And then you catch this one, and you make it all back because you might even catch a runner on that one, depending on how you enter it and how you play your break-even stop. And you make it all right back, plus some probably. And then you catch one of these other entries, and you might catch a runner. And so you just don't sweat the loss is basically what I'm trying to get at. Don't let it affect you emotionally. Just ignore it and go on. The same thing with wins. Don't get all excited and happy because you made a couple of wins in a row. Because once you get emotional, whether it's a high emotional or a low emotion, it's going to affect your thinking and your trading. And I will say that the negative emotions get you much worse than the positive ones, but the positive ones will get you too. And that's why I hate long. I talked about this recently with some other traders about the long winning streaks. If you get good at this, you'll get long winning streaks. And the longer that streak goes, the more nerve-wracking it gets. And I mean, I hate those long, you never want to lose, so you don't, as long as you're winning, you want to keep winning. But I hate those long win streaks. I'd much rather have a loss in there somewhere. And I know that sounds counterproductive, but those long win streaks, they get they're so stressful and they start to eat at you. And then you'll make a mistake. Sure, you get overconfident and you'll make a mistake. So I'd rather have a loss. 1 out of every 8 or 10 trades, have a loss, you're going to be better off. And anyway, enough about that. But nice trend today. Not a lot of entries, but later in the day when everybody finally figured out that, hey, this is a strong uptrend, every time it would take off again, it was a big move and easy runners on a couple of these. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.